Hey, howdy, friends. It's Steve DePoe here with the Rose Realty team with this week's Real Estate Live for North Texas. Today, we're going to talk about the cost of living in North Texas. If you're from the outside, you think you're coming in, or if you're just moved to the area, I want to explain a little bit about the cost of living in North Texas and how it's really advantageous to either those of us living here or those of us that are thinking about maybe moving here from someplace else. So, let's get into it. So housing is a big thing, right? I mean, housing is actually more times than not the number one contributor to cost of living in North Texas. Now, the cost of housing in North Texas isn't like the two coasts, the East Coast or the West Coast, where their housing is really, really darn expensive, right? Now it in North Texas here, it is more expensive, let's say, by Dallas and close to Dallas, because more people want to be in the city, the hub of commerce, that kind of thing, right? And it gets less expensive as you move out into the suburbs. So naturally, in the suburban areas, not the suburban areas, rather, I'm sorry, the city areas, it's more expensive. In the suburban and rural areas, it's much less expensive. It's not, again, not as expensive as maybe New York or San Francisco or LA or like that. Or New Jersey or the coast, the east or west coast, but the cost of housing, actually, you can see in the chart there, and Texas actually mirrors, right, the rest of the U.S. in terms of growth and that kind of thing, but it is well below. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. Taxes. So there is no state income tax in Texas. But the funds to run the state are then put on property tax. Now, property taxes here in North Texas, a lot of people think are high. Okay, but it also depends on where you come from. So if you come from, again, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, California, Chicago, okay, their taxes are 2 or 3 times what we're paying. Okay, Atlanta, on the other hand, are lower than what we're paying. North Carolina, South Carolina are lower than what we're paying. Arkansas, Tennessee, lower than what we're paying. So it kind of depends on which bullet you want to bite. Okay. Now if you think about it, when you live in New York, New Jersey, with the higher property taxes, you're also paying higher income taxes. And I think between all taxes, I think they're taking like a 50 or 60% chunk out of your salary every month, right? Something else to talk about will be sales tax. Sales taxes are regulated by the town or the municipality, and they typically run a little bit on the high side. Okay, now I think you roll all of that together, again, it's less expensive than many places, throughout the country. It's also more expensive than some places. Okay, so you kind of have to see, which mountain you want to climb, if you will, to determine whether the property and sales taxes are okay with you, or whether you'd rather pay the property taxes in one of these higher locations. Hey, before we keep on going, do us a favor. Hey, go to our YouTube channel. That's www.youtube.com/@Moving.to.Dallas. There you'll find our YouTube channel. Please like it and subscribe to it. You'll get notifications of when we put up new content, whether they're vlogs or whether they're home tours or drone video or whatever. Also, some of the real estate clips that I post, they reside there as well. That'll help you out. It'll let you know when we put up new content. It also help us out, and so we'll kind of rank higher in the YouTube rankings. We want to thank you for that, and we appreciate your support. Hey, so let's talk about transportation expenses. Transportation expenses are kind of twofold, if you will. So we have lower gasoline and oil prices than many places in the country, simply because we produce our own. Okay, we produce oil and gas for the country. Okay, and so because it's sort of, I'm going to call it local. On when I say local, it's all down in Houston, or in a few other pockets. It's local to the state, right? And so our gasoline and oil prices are cheaper than other places in the country. However, the downside is that we're all auto based, so you're gonna have to have a car if you want to come to Texas, North Texas specifically. So it's all automobile based, okay, and therefore you're going to be in the car a lot, which could be bad, good or bad, depending on you. But you're going to be using and buying a lot of gas. Okay. I as a real estate agent, I probably fill up once a week, maybe 1.5 times a week, sort of. So because there is not a lot. We have trains and trains and electric rail and all that kind of stuff. But the infrastructure for that wasn't put in place originally, and so it's not the absolute best like maybe it is in Virginia, Washington, and Virginia, Washington, D.C., and Maryland. Okay. Or even New York City. Okay. But it's so transportation expenses can be a little bit on the high side. Utility costs, again, because we have the oil and gas here, we have our own grid. Okay. I think something like there are, in case you didn't know, there are 3 grids in the United States. There's the Eastern grid, which kind of goes up to the eastern kind of edge of Texas, and the Western grid, which goes from Pacific Ocean to that eastern edge of North Texas. And then probably I'm going to say probably something like 90% of Texas is on its own grid. There's some outliers there that are fed by the east and west, but we do have our own grid. And so because we produce our own oil and gas and all of that, the utility costs can tend to be a little bit cheaper. Okay. Electricity, water is a little bit higher, but you don't use quite as much water as you do electricity. Okay. Again, in the summer, electric costs are going to be up because we're running our AC a lot. And so overall, I'm going to say, based upon other places I've lived, utility costs here are very reasonable and lower than other places that I've lived. And then everyday expenses. So that's like food and groceries. As an example, entertainment, clothing. So entertainment and clothing is the same as any place else. Food and groceries are a bit lower than other places, simply because again, we grow our own stuff. Now, California, it should be cheaper as well, but I think they export a lot of their stuff. So because we here in Texas, we grow a lot of our own fruits and vegetables and all of that, and beef and chicken. It tends to be a little bit cheaper food wise. Now you're going to go out to a restaurant, one of our better restaurants, you're going to pay there, but again, I don't think anywhere near as much as what you're going to pay in New York. I mean, New York's got like 18 taxes and stuff added on. What's a cup of coffee in New York? Like $14. Anyway, it is everyday expenses like food, clothing, and all of that is less expensive here, in North Texas. So I hope that helped understanding some of the aspects about cost of living, in North Texas. It is cheaper. I just did some research for another video I was doing. There's a cost of living index, and the North Texas area, Denton in particular, cost of living index is below 100. Okay, it's like 90. It's like 98. Okay, cost of living in I think I looked at Atlanta, Chicago, New York, and California. And Atlanta was the cheapest. The next cheapest cost of living, they were like at 105, I think, And then Illinois was like 115. Surprisingly enough, I don't know whether it was, I think it was LA I was looking at, it was 127, I think. And surprisingly enough, New York was like 214 cost of living. So when you look at all of those big cities, North Texas is very reasonable and very affordable. Next week, we're going to do a special next week. We're going to talk about North Texas housing market, and we're going to interview one of our lenders for that, and we're going to talk to him, sit down with him for a couple of minutes or so, and talk to him about the housing market and mortgage rates and all that kind of stuff in North Texas. So you're not going to want to miss that. This is Steve. I am with the Rose Real Team. I'm out.